What are some of the best attack and defense options for Battlegrounds Season 16? Look, we're going to have to do Battlegrounds, whether you like it or not, in order to get some of the runestones, in order to get a 6 or 7 star version of Nightcrawler. So the new season, which drops next week, is all about using mystic-based champions, which you can see here. Whenever a mystic attacker nullifies a buff on a defender, they inflict a neutralized passive of 30% for 20 seconds. Max 3, whenever a buff on the defender is prevented by these neutralizers, the attacker passively gains 3% of their max power. So at the end of the day, the point is Mystic Champions attacker nullifies a buff on the defender. Yeah. So that's kind of like it. You want to get easy access to nullification. If you want to defend against that, you want to be able to use Nullify Immune Champions, because the defender will stack Fury buffs on them for 3 seconds, and if you stay away, they will gradually fall off. But it depends how you want to do this. Mainly Mystic-based champions being aggressive and nullifying will be the way to go with it. Shout out to Misty K, link is in the description to Misty K's Twitter, because there's great information, great infographics. Of course, there's loads of different infographics from various people. MCC Adventure, Charles Wang, there's loads. There's absolutely loads of them, but trying to mention everything in a video is always very difficult to get all the details in. So I've got a spreadsheet in the description. We're going to be going over some options. Of course, one of the things that's going to be important this month is there's X Magicka champions. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you're going to be able to have boosts, 10% attack boost for some of these champions. So what I've done is I've factored into, and look, this is not every single champion, but enough of these champions to go, hey, by the way, there's some attacking options right there, which could be beneficial. Doesn't mean to say that they're the best options, it's mystic options for you. I do think this month there's going to be some standout, really kind of cool options like Morningstar, Mephisto. I think Spider-Man Supreme will just be really good to stack on, the same way that Sorcerer Supreme. Is that right? No, Symbiote Supreme. Sorcerer Supreme is a good option as well, but Symbiote Supreme will be able to look, if it's like, oh, I'm just going to play aggressively, you've got that stagger from the champion on, and it's going to be like this big boom burst, and it's like just loads of damage from it. The same way that you've got Hood. I think Hood will come into his own this month. The same way with Black Widow, Clairvoyant, Wiccan, Doctor Doom, Juggernaut, Rintrah, Sasquatch, Ebony Maw, and lots more. Like, here's the thing, it's not just about those champions for ease of access to nullify, but also will be something like, okay, well, they play into doing the neutralize. So Mystic champions will be able to action that neutralize, which means they suppress, which means that can be beneficial to take on these particular champions. But I think buff punishing champions are going to be really good. On the flip side, defensive-based options could be really good as well. This is done by Misty K as well. I've put in the spreadsheet. There's a link there. If you click it, it will take you to Misty K's Twitter. So there's an interactional thing right there. So this is done from, I think this was from a few seasons ago. These champions will have Nullify Immune. So you might find some good options here for defense-based properties. And slightly with these champions here, I'd say Titanium maybe is a defense. Ant-Man is a defense, maybe. I'm not sure about Spider-Man 2099, Red Guardian, and Cassie Lang. I kind of feel like these two here may be the best options. But again, that's an iffy one because I haven't really experimented. I'm just giving you some options to try. But I definitely think Thing will come into his own this month. The same thing with Gallon, Viv Vision, Overseer, Mega Sentinel, Iron Man, Mr. Negative, a champion I really want to rank up. I don't think Silver Warrior will be a good option. I do not really think that's going to be there. Guardian, maybe. Gladiator, maybe. I don't know. But I would say some of these other ones are better options just based on them being a bit tricky and annoying. But it doesn't dispute the fact that any kind of annoying champion is going to be annoying on defense. So you could be like, okay, well, what's an annoying champion option? Maestro. That could be annoying, but then somebody could field a Mystic, and the Mystic will be able to kind of like do a class advantage and smack a lot of damage. Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Mysterio can be quite annoying as a defensive-based option. Yeah, okay, that could be another one. Apocalypse, yep, okay. There's lots of options. Hulkling, I don't know if I've put Hulk. I think I should have put Hulkling on here, so I'll just mention it in the video. I think Hulkling's a good one for this. See, possibly Hulkling. Let's go with that. I think Hulkling's still a good option in defense. Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose with that. So I'll just add that with. I'll add it to this spreadsheet if I can in the time. But look, there's other options to it. I always put in the spreadsheet, there is right at the bottom of the tabs, which is, if I can get it into shot there. I put in Cam's Defender tier list because it is very helpful to players to give at least some options of, this is a good option, this is a frustrating option, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. Whether or not it's the likes of Spot, whether or not it's the likes of Weapon X, Onslaught. I'd love an Onslaught. I think he's going into the 6-star featured next week. We'll have to see. I'm sure there's going to be champions within there I want to get to add to the collection. But quickly going over to kind of Gladiator Circuit, because a lot of you will be kind of looking. That first part is to get off Victory Track. So go and see that tab, which I've put. If you go to it again at the bottom of the tab, it will say Victory Track Defense and Attack Counters. When you get in, and also there's a tab for X Magicka Saga options as well, just ones that will boost on them. But of course, you may want to use Mystics, you may not, because the main thing about some of the attack options, right, is that there's also the usual suspects. People using Human Torch, Falcon, Archangel, Spider-Ham, Omega Sentinel, Hercules, Hulk, Mantis, Kingpin, King Groot. The list goes on. Kate Bishop, Sunspot. The list goes on. Like, people use various different options and don't play into metas. Not all the time, some of the time. So that's also very interesting to note as well. So Gladiator Circuit Week 2, I don't think there's much in the way of change, personally, from what I've seen. It's still the same. It's still the same. Buff immune and nullify immune options will be decent enough because they won't play into being kind of neutralized, and what's the purpose of a Mystic going up against it? So it's like saying, okay, I fielded my Gallon, I fielded my Iron Man, and I'm taking in a Mystic. What you can do? Like, you won't be able to kind of like deal with the nullification side of things. In theory, that's kind of like how I kind of like see it. But I could be wrong with that. I could be wrong. And the same thing with other stuff. But while the attacker is close to the defender gains a Fury buff every 3 seconds. Well, here's the thing: you're having to play aggressively, but you can't take that buff off the champion. They're still going to be quite stonky and stocky with the damage that they'll be able to do from it. In theory, as I said, in theory, I could be completely wrong. Every 15 seconds, the defender gains an indestructible buff and gains unblockable buff for 5 seconds. Again, if you're unable to take that off the champion, that can be annoying. That's why I'm talking about the idea of these defenders that are nullify immune and buff immune, because they will be frustrating because you won't be able to take the buffs off them, in theory. So that's kind of like, that's week 1 and 2 of that. Nullified champions, of course, use them as much as you can, whenever you can. But as I said, those buff immune options are going to be annoying. Think about it. Okay, the final 3 to 4 weeks will be no big changes except for the change of that indestructible and unblockable. So you will get instead feats of power, but Footloose and Underhanded Comment. I would say Footloose to me is the most annoying, and you may opt to change out for champions that are slow debuff options, or champions that are able to counter evade and and unstoppable. So it's very limited because slow debuff. Buff counters, nullifying options, Mystic champions could be good, but as I said, if people are fielding those buff immune options, then they can be frustrating. And we'll have to kind of see that in principle. So you may want to use some slow debuff based champions. Just any general annoying champions on defense would be key. But look to things like, okay, well, She-Hulk, slow debuff, easy access. There's also Spider-Gwen, which I haven't put on here, but I think a lot of people would know that. Captain Britain apparently has it. Silver Centurion, Dragon Man, Red Guardian, Sorcerer Supreme, and Quicksilver. Of course, if you are able to use Mystic-based champions to counter the buffs, because there's going to be buffs, that's great. But if, and again, I need to reiterate this, if, for whatever reason, that the enemy champion is fielding nullify immune options, like Ganon, Thing, Vivision, Omega Sentinel, Overseer, Iron Man, Mr. Negative, Gladiator, and Titania or Ant-Man, then of course that is going to cause a problem. So you might want to think about ranking up some of those champions. But I would say maybe test the waters with these champions first before, you know, kind of sinking your teeth into kind of ramping them up. I would say countering the counters is going to be difficult unless you have something like a dot-based damage champion. Difficult for Indestructible when that comes into week 1 and 2 of Gladiator Circuit. But you may be looking through your roster and going, well, how do I counter the counter on this one? And it will be you kind of going back to going, okay, well, if I use Human Torch against some of these champions, you can Nova Flame with that one. The same thing with Bishop, if you're able to SP1 and do damage with Incinerate. Again, up to you how you tackle this, but think about countering the counters. The initial thing is, if champion gets buffs, try and nullify. If they use nullify immune, try and counter that by having dot-based damage. In theory, that could work. Ruptures, shocks, incinerates, bleeds, whatever it is. Good luck. I would say good luck. But also something that, as I said, I'm interested to see how Morningstar functions in this content, and I probably will be ranking her up, especially because I need to use the champion to get the Deathless Guillotine. But yeah, it should be an interesting season. New kind of like ways of tackling stuff could be found. Thanks for watching. Check out the spreadsheet. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye for now.